everyone and welcome back to our Laravel tutorial. In last video we got our Laravel project up and running. We installed a new Laravel 13 application. We did not start with an empty project. We selected official Laravel starter kit with the themes option. The starter kit includes Inertia 13, React 19, Fortify authentication, team management, invitations, and role-based access. We also get login, registration, email verification, password reset, profile management, and complete Shadsi and UI component library. This gave us a working multi-tenant application from day one. Now in this video we are going to set up Git and GitHub so our project stays organized and every change is safely tracked. Now let's get started. First, let's open the terminal. As you can see, Laravel Sail is already running in the background. Our application, MySQL, and Redis containers are all up and running. Now, the first thing I want to do is to initialize a Git repository. Before you follow along, make sure Git is installed on your machine. If you haven't installed it yet, don't worry, I will leave the installation guide in the video description. Now, before running any Git command, make sure you're inside your project directory. Now let's type git init. As you can see in the terminal, Git creates an empty repository and uses master as the default branch on this machine. Now if I run git status, Git scans the project and lists every file it has found. At this point, none of these files are being tracked yet. The next step is to tell the Git to track them. For that, we should run git add dot. The dot tells the Git to add everything inside the current project. Now, after running that command, if I run git status again, you can see every file is staged and ready for our first commit. Now, the next step is to create that commit. So in order to do that, we will use git commit -m and then in the double quotation initial commit. The -m option lets us add a commit message. A good commit message should describe what changed in that commit. Since this is our very first commit, initial commit is a good choice. Now let's run it. Perfect. Our first snapshot is now stored in Git. From this point on, every commit records another snapshot of the project, which makes tracking changes and rolling back much easier. Now, the next thing I want to do is to back up this repository on GitHub. Git stores the history locally on your machine, but GitHub stores another copy online, so you don't lose your work if something happens to your machine. It also makes collaboration much easier. Let's open github.com. I've already signed into a fresh GitHub account. If you don't have one, creating an account only takes a few minutes. Now let's create a new repository. I'll name it Tasky. For the description, I will write a task management system built with Laravel. I'm leaving the repository public for this tutorial. Also leaving the readme.gitignore and license unchecked because those files already exist in our local project. And I don't want GitHub creating additional commits for me. Now let's click Create Repository. Perfect. GitHub gives us instructions for publishing an existing repository. Let's go back to the terminal. The first step is connecting our local repository to GitHub. We do that with git remote add origin. Then I will copy the repository URL from GitHub and paste it after origin. Now our local project knows where the remote repository lives. The next step is pushing our commits. I will run git push. Git stops us here and tells us this branch doesn't have an upstream branch yet. It even gives us the exact command we need. So I will copy it and run git push --set -upstream origin master. And now we get another error. This happens because GitHub doesn't allow username and password authentication over HTTPS anymore. Since setting up GitHub isn't the focus of this course, I'm going to speed this part up. I will also leave the official GitHub documentation in the description if you want to follow the complete setup process. Now that our local Git repository and GitHub repository are ready, it's finally time to start working on the project. The first feature I want to build is user avatars. If you look at the starter kit, you will notice that users and teams don't have profile image. That's something almost every modern application needs. So we are going to build the entire feature ourselves. Before we write any code, let's quickly look at the overall flow. First, the user selects an image from their computer. When they submit the form, the frontend sends the image to a Laravel endpoint. On the backend, we will update the request to make sure the uploaded file is a valid image and meets our requirements. Once validation passes, we will store the original image on disk. Since we need to know where that image lives, we will also add a new column to the users table to store its path. After that, whenever we load the authenticated user, we'll generate a public URL for the image and send it back to the frontend where React displays it throughout the application. But we are not gonna stop there. Uploading the original image is only the beginning. Let's think about where profile pictures usually appear in a typical application. Sometimes they are tiny, like the avatar in the navigation bar, and sometimes they are much larger, like the user's profile page, a team member list, or an activity feed. Loading the original image for every one of those places wastes bandwidth and it slows down the application. So instead, we are going to generate multiple versions of every uploaded image. So this way, we'll keep the original image and then we will generate a small thumbnail for places like the navigation bar and sidebar. We will also generate a medium-sized version for profile pages, member lists, and other screens where the image appears larger. But those resized images won't be created during the upload request. Instead, we will send the work to a background queue. This way, the user gets a fast response while Laravel processes the image in the background. But there's still one more thing we can improve. After the user uploads an image, we don't want them wondering whether everything finished successfully. We're going to display a progress indicator while the upload is happening. The progress won't stop when the file reaches the server. It will continue until background image processing is complete. As soon as every resized image is ready, we will notify the frontend in real time. To do that, we will use Laravel events, jobs, queues, Laravel reverb, and Laravel echo. The backend broadcasts an event and the frontend immediately receives it without refreshing the page. So by building only one feature, you're going to learn a lot more than image uploads. At the first sight, this might look a simple avatar feature, but it introduces many of the tools we will use throughout the rest of this project. Once we finish the feature, you will have a solid understanding of several core Laravel concepts that you will use again and again throughout your career. In the next video, we'll start implementing the avatar system from scratch. We will begin by designing the database, creating the migrations, and building the upload flow one step at a time. If you're following along, make sure your project is at the same point before continuing. If you found this video helpful, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.